Welcome to Early Access. I'm Katie Whitlock. This is exciting because I'm starting a new podcast today. For anybody who has been listening to the podcast, I usually do one-on-one interviews, so it's just me and somebody else. They typically have to be under the age of 35, and I just interview them about their number. I've done that for a few months, and I have been getting real into family dynamics now. So I want to talk to more than one person, and I want to talk to family members about how their numbers interact with each other. So if anyone follows me on Instagram, you know I put out a call for family members to contact me. The rule was that I was looking for a parent-child couple. Can I say that? Duo. And the child had to be under 35, but that was basically the only rule. So I had a lot of people reach out to me. And this is the first, hopefully, of many family podcasts that we're going to do. So I'm here today with Jen and Olivia, who people will recognize. It's lovely to have you both here. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, happy to be here. Brought my mom this time, so
exactly
excited.
Jen, it's nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
So like I said, anyway, you might recognize Olivia's voice. She's been on the podcast before. She's a 1. She was on kind of my 1-to-1 podcast that we were doing. Now she brought her mama, which I love because I'm good friends with my mama too. So to get started, I'm going to ask y'all to introduce yourselves. So my typical, again, Olivia, you'll know this. My typical introduction is just, I'll ask you how old you are. I'll ask you your Enneagram number. And then basically just kind of what you do, who you are, any basic info for people to know, right? Olivia, I'll have you go first since you've been here before. You can kind of do a recap.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm Olivia. I'm 24, and I'm an Enneagram 1. I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona, but I'm from Colorado. That's where my mom is. And we are best friends, talk on the phone almost every single day. So I'm very excited to be here with her.
Exciting. All right, Jen, you go ahead.
Okay, I'm Jen Jacobson. I am a 55. I live in Colorado Springs, and I am a type 3, a social 3. Mm-hmm. So the stereotype. And I kind of have done a lot of things in my life and kind of reinvented myself and have a history of youth ministry and women's ministry. And I do fashion consulting, and I'm a certified Enneagram coach last year. So do some workshops and one-on-one coaching.
Fun. So can you tell me both your, Olivia, I'm going to ask you questions that I know I already asked you just in case anyone didn't listen to that last one, right? But can you, Jen, you go first. Can you tell me about your intro to the Enneagram? Like, I know you said you're a certified coach. How did you get into the Enneagram in the first place?
Yes. Well, I was a psych major in college. So 1993 graduated. And so psychology communications was my jam. And I've just always been interested in things that are personality assessments and all that kind of stuff. Clifton Strength Finders a few years ago, and I loved that. About 10 years ago, my sister she's a therapist, and she went to the Enneagram Institute in New York and was really into it, kind of on the right at the beginning of it being kind of more popular.
Yeah.
And so she was kind of just trying to help us, my husband and I, kind of type ourselves. My husband actually typed as a 6 when we first started talking with her. He was in a very stressful time of his life. And in this last couple of years, have realized that he's actually a 9.
Fascinating. Cool.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I would say like about a year ago, it's like the Enneagram's been around and I've had words for it, but I just really kind of had an interest to like dive a lot deeper into it and figure out a way that I could use it to just help other people in learning about themselves and self-compassion and relationships and all of that. So
fun.
Yeah.
And then Olivia, did you do it through osmosis through your mother, or did you get into it a different way?
Yeah, so it was back mostly when my aunt was getting into it in her therapy journey. Okay. So when she was kind of introducing it to my mom and my dad, and I was kind of in those conversations as well, just loved always being in the adult conversations. So I was always around, and it was pretty clear that I was a 1, even from that younger age. But then, yes, in the last year when my mom's gotten a lot more into it and going through all of her training and her materials and stuff, I've kind of been her conversation buddy, and we've like talked about all the different things that she's been learning. And so, yeah, it's been fun having those conversations.
Fun. I know that knowing the Enneagram has, like you said, my mother and I have also always been best friends, but knowing the Enneagram especially has like made us best friends. And we, not to tell all my family business, but the thing about knowing the Enneagram is that when you do have like we didn't have a fight, but we had a disagreement about something this weekend. But because we know the Enneagram, I was able to be like this, this, and this. And she was like, I get it. I understand exactly what you're saying. You're also doing this, this, and this. And then it was over. And it was great. You know what I mean? And we were done.
Yeah.
And we loved each other again.
Yeah. Having that language is so helpful.
Yes.
In so many ways. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to kind of set up your family because we're going to talk about y'all's relationships. But I think to do that, we kind of need to know the context of your whole family as well. So Olivia, I'm going to throw it to you. Can you just kind of set up your family for me? So how many members, who's there, include pets if you want to, right? Ages of people, kind of just the basic like physical description of your family.
Yeah, sure. So we're a pretty small family, so it should be pretty easy to keep track of. It's just my mom and my dad, and then me, and I have one younger sister. So she's 2 years younger than me. And like my mom mentioned a little bit earlier, my dad, we've found out he's a 9. So he's a 9, my mom's a 3, and then my sister, we think she's maybe a 2. So we've kind of bounced around. She has a lot of 7 energy in our family dynamic, but then in college now she's kind of discovering herself a little more and leaning towards that too. That's probably where she's landing. So
cool.
We'll see.
And she's young, so
Yeah.
you know it's hard to figure out.
22, so still in
Right.
college, and very different, dynamic in college versus with family. So.
Yes, absolutely. Fun. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm very excited to ask a lot of questions about what it's like to have 3 and 9 parents, because that's going to be me and Chase. So I'm very excited about that. But before we do that, I have a couple more contextual questions. So Jen, I'll throw this to you. You have 2 kids. Can you, so in order to kind of set up Olivia's context in the family, right? Can you kind of walk me through each of your kids, kind of the main differences in them, just kind of to set up about where Olivia is in the family, right? Compared to her sister, compared to her parents, all the different things.
Yeah, well, Liv was the firstborn, and she came on the heels of my husband and I both had cancer in our 20s. And then we had 2 miscarriages before Olivia.
My goodness.
And so she was born into like really wanted and on the heels of some pretty significant trauma.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, she came into the world pretty darn perfect. Like, and when she was born, I mean, honestly, I even had this, like, I kind of almost couldn't believe she was perfect because we had so much heartache. I thought, well, then there's probably going to be some like severe difficulties or problems with this child. And she just was like the easiest baby and like so wanted in our world. So, and then Noelle was born 2 years later. She came into the world much easier, quicker. We said, let's think about having a baby, got pregnant. I always say Noelle came bursting into the world. And until Noelle started walking and talking, Olivia just ran the show. Like she was large and in charge. She was the oldest of the cousins on my side of the family with my sister. She has boys. And so I look back at videos and I almost forget like how animated and center of attention Olivia was, because once Noelle started talking, it's like she kind of took over. And I watched Olivia, I don't want to say like get smaller, but like she really fell into line of like what life needs to be about. And for sure, I think she lived very like, I don't want to be too much for my parents and I want to do everything right. And I mean, you saw that oneness like right out of the gate. Really, she was so easy, terrible to discipline because you just looked at her and she would start crying. Liv would start crying. Like, it was just like,
like, what am I supposed to do?
You didn't even know she was being that much harder on herself. Like, I didn't know that in her little, we're like, Noelle we always just said she was kind of our like crazy wild child. And like, we didn't know what to do to discipline her because she was just, and she keeps us laughing. And so the dynamic of the two of them. And then there was definitely, in the growing up, I think Noelle's voice would rise up of just like, oh, I just have this perfect older sister and I could never be as perfect as her. And like, she's the golden child. And so I think Liv kind of just carried it because by nature, she just was that kid that like kind of did everything right and did everything amazingly and was everyone's friend and every teacher loved her. And every school conference was like, she's amazing, no complaints, you know? So that's a bit of the dynamic, at least of the two of them, having the
That's
two,
great.
two girls, but they're so very different. So very different.
Olivia, are you and Noelle like friends? Do you get along as adults?
Yeah, we do. We were very close growing up. I feel like we were really close. And then I think once, just different life stages when I went to college, and then now she's in college and I'm married and out of college. So we just like had a lot of distance, like physical distance for sure, of just like being in different places and different seasons. But yes, we get along. But it is interesting because we are so different that I say, like, if I just met her on the street, like, I don't know if we would have become friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely, we have a good relationship for sure.
Good. I'll tell you, I'm only 3 years ahead of you, so like, what do I know? But I'll tell you, same with my sister. We were super, super close when we were young. And then I think when we were both in college / when I left college and she was still in college, that was like the lowest. Not like we never hated each other or anything, but we just like didn't know each other very well because we just were both gone and like doing things all the time. And then once she left, it got a little easier. So hopefully it gets a little easier. But it was, and it's, I guess the thing I have to say is it like I don't know if you struggle with this, but I felt weird like admitting that I felt like I didn't know my sister very well because I used to know her so well. And that was a super weird sibling dynamic to go through for a few years.
It is weird to be like, I really don't know what's going on in her life most of the time. Like, she came and visited me for her spring break, and that was so fun. Like, felt like we got to catch up and kind of get like, reacquainted almost. Of like, we've just been so far away, and we're bad texters, and so that is encouraging to hear that after she got out of college and you kind of were both like more in that adult stage, it kind of got a little better. So
it does, hopefully. And continues. Okay, my last contextual question before we kind of get into it. This is for Livy. Can you describe your relationship with your mother kind of over the course of your life? So take as long or as short as you would like. I know the relationship with my mother changed when I was like 17 or whatever. So when you were young, kind of what was your relationship like? Teenager, maybe college, after college. Can you kind of paint that picture for us?
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like while it has changed for sure, it's honestly not changed that drastically. So I feel like growing up, we had a very good relationship. I always kind of knew that I was the easy one. Like, that was, even though my parents definitely did not have favorites, I was the easy one. We just moved through the world like in a similar way, like me and my mom always did. And I feel like as a 3 and as a 1, it makes sense that like I was looking for what are my rules for the world going to be, and she was the one giving those to me. And so I was very much willing to take those on as my own standards for myself. And so I really had a great relationship with her, following the rules, and but also like an emotional closeness I feel like we had from an early age too. Like, she was always so good at asking me questions and really wanting to know me and know what was going on. Even as a little kid in 2nd grade, coming home from school and like having all the questions of like, who are your friends and what are you doing? And so I feel like we always thought that. And then in those teenage years, I feel like it didn't change too much, other than there were some things that then I was starting to build my own worldview and perspective on, of like, this is now things that I'm kind of forming my own opinion about. And I don't think that ever caused too much tension, but there was definitely a little bit more probably than when I was, really young.
7,
like even thinking back to like driver's ed, and like now I have someone else teaching me like how to drive and how I'm supposed to do things the right way, and like always use your turn signal when you're changing lanes. And then I get in my mom's car and there's no one else on the road and she's not using her turn signal to change lanes. And I'm like, in my little one brain, like, this is horrible. Like, she's not following the rules. She's doing it wrong. And so obviously like those things, started happening, but I don't think that ever caused any sort of like real rift in our relationship. And then, and then in college, we were still close, but I went away to college. So I went to school out in Oregon and she was in Colorado. So we we would text, and we're good at communicating, texting back and forth. We talk fairly regularly, but I also had a long distance boyfriend at the time who's now my husband. And so he was definitely who I was directing most of my communication attention towards in terms of long distance communication. So yeah, we didn't probably have like as just like day-to-day contact when I was in college. But then after college, graduated, got married, moved first to Florida, now to Arizona. So we've still been kind of at that distance from each other. But I feel like our relationship has gotten closer in these last like 2 years since college than ever. And we really are talking so regularly. And yeah, it's great just like having a relationship with your mom where you like know that they've always been there for you. They've seen you at every single stage of your life. They have all the context for like who you are. And yeah, it's just fantastic. So yeah, we have a great relationship.
So this is a question I've always had for ones, and you brought it up, so I'm going to ask. And you might not know the answer because you were too young. But you talked about your mom, when you were really young, your mom being the one giving you, like, these are the rules, right? This is how we do things, right? And that totally makes sense. When you're young, everything you know comes from your parents. And so the question I always ask ones is like that little voice in your head that tells you what's right and what's wrong, right? And has decided what is morally correct and what is not. I always want to know, did that literally come from someone telling you that? Or were you just kind of born with it? Or was your mother just like living her life and you picked up on the fact that these things are good and these things are bad without that maybe literally coming out of her mouth? Do you know what I mean? Like, which one of those was it? Or a combination, maybe?
Yeah, I definitely think it is a combination of all of that. I mean, I'm just thinking of like, how does one's worldview even form? It's a mix of the inputs of things that you're actually told these are the rules, and then the things that you see played out all around you. Like as a kid, you have no context for the world, so you're looking to the people who are older than you to kind of show you what the world is and like how it works. And so, yeah, I think about things of like, we might get into this a little later, or maybe not, but like, just like my mom's like, the way she perceived herself and her, body image struggles and things like that, me taking that and like seeing that, but her never maybe like saying any of those things out loud, me just like taking that in as a little kid and then like choosing, am I going to agree with this and say, this is now my standard for myself? Or am I going to say, no, actually, I see that that's not serving for her, so I'm going to choose something different as my own standard for myself. And I think that's kind of how my one worldview has been shaped.
Interesting. So you had a little agency over how you were forming that. I've never heard of one say that before.
I think so much of it too, even is like, I think back now, like seeing how my sister was acting and what reactions I got from my parents, and then choosing the opposite. Like I was seeing something and saying, actually, no, that's not what I want. So I'm choosing this other thing, and now that is my standard for myself. If that makes sense.
Fascinating. It does. And it connects to all the agency stuff about ones, right? Like I'll be honest, sometimes ones are the hardest for me to explain how it connects to agency, right? Like how does forcing yourself to do something specific give you agency, which is like freedom, right? Like those two things don't really go together, but that actually makes a lot of sense what you're saying there.
Yeah, and it probably then is hard, like it definitely is hard as a one. That's where we can become so rigid of like, now I've set this. Like I've seen maybe even just one example in my life of how this is or how I want it to be. And so now that is my standard for myself. And so the ability to then shift that over time can be really challenging. But that's the growth, is being willing to change and flex as you get new or different input, changing your mind about things.
Yeah. Okay, well, before I go on, Jen, I have a question for you about that. As a 3, so I'm thinking about motherhood myself, right? I mean, I do know I want to be a mother. It's mostly thinking about when we're going to do that. So I might use this as free therapy for myself as well, talking to a 3. But was it hard for you when Olivia started having her own opinions about what's right and what's wrong, and like, I think that what you're doing is wrong, right? Was that hard for you as a 3 mother?
Totally.
Yeah. I felt that in my own heart, right? Like if my child was like, I think that you're wrong, I'd be like, I'm failing. I'm a failure.
Totally.
What was that like? I guess like, when did that start and what was that like?
Well, I think also just that feeling is like, as a 3, it's just like, we want to slay at all the things.
Yes,
and so I for sure want to be the best mom, and I want to be the best mom to both of my kids.
Yeah.
And I want to meet their exact needs. And so even like that whole shape shifting to like be what each kid needs. So yeah, I think honestly, the part that has been maybe the trickiest is like Olivia has always just been this like this like, I would tell her when she was little, like, I want to be like you when I grow up. Like when she was little, I would tell her that. So there was a sense of like, and even at one point I was like, do you remember when I told you I had a crush on you? And she's like, no. And I'm like, I mean, she just has always been this like old soul. And so the reverse of that then can feel sometimes if like what she's putting out then feels like judgment to me.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, where I feel like it's probably even just become maybe the trickiest is, so now she's married to a wonderful guy. Love Bryce. I'm actually really good friends with Bryce's mom. Like we've been friends for years.
That's awesome.
She's a 2 with a very strong one wing. And this is now Liv's mother-in-law.
All right.
So the fact that now Liv has another mother, oh man, it's like that. It's so hard to not have competition rise up. It's like, it's not a competition. And I will always be Liv's mom. And I know that like, I'm exactly the right mom for her. And we have such a great relationship. But like, if Olivia's like Rebecca's an incredible cook. So then somehow I feel like, well, I'm losing then at the like cooking game, or she cooks better food than I do. And then also Olivia's like, oh, Rebecca uses this cookie, like cleaning supply, and I'm bad at cleaning and I know it and I own it, but I still hate that I'm bad at cleaning.
Yes.
And so there's the tension of like, I still want to be like the best mom and the best mom to Liv. And I think that's where that can sometimes feel threatened. And it's so good that we both have language around that, because I'm laughing at it. It's like, well, it's not a competition.
It literally doesn't. Yeah.
And also, I don't even have to be the best at all the things. But I think that's probably where that has risen up the most, or has been the challenging part of just having and honestly, like, even this weekend, Liv was like, oh, I'm going to like doctor these cinnamon rolls. And she had like a hack for me. And I'm like, teach me. So like being willing to be in a humble posture of like, what if my kid actually does know how to do this better than I do? And that doesn't mean that I'm losing. That doesn't mean I'm a failure.
Yeah.
It means I can like mutually respect and receive this. So I think probably easier to do that right now in this phase of life, because not that I see her as an equal, but yet there is something that, you know, like, she's like a grown adult, and mutual respect, and I can learn things from her. And so,
So it never stops is what I'm hearing. The whole comparison thing. It's just forever and ever. That's great.
Forever. And it's so funny how you're like, okay, like I'll even have this feeling like, okay, I think I won at that. And it's like, it wasn't even a competition. But somehow I won at whatever that was. Yeah. That's real. That doesn't go away.
Whatever vague, ambiguous thing we're all competing for, I won it.
Correct.
That's funny. Okay. So I didn't send you this question, but I was thinking about it earlier. And this is my real free therapy question for a 3 mother, right? So to set up, I'm about to ask you to talk about, Olivia just kind of explained your relationship from her side, right? I'm going to kind of ask you to explain your parenting kind of from your side as well. But before we do that, I actually want to ask you a question about before you were a mom. One of the things that's hard for me as a 3 to think about being a mom is people just say that being a mom, especially like a newborn mom or like that first year, just like strips you down to your bones, right? And there's nothing else that you can do. You just have to survive it, and all the things like Abby Howe, I think her name was on a podcast here, and she was saying she felt like a caterpillar that turned to mush that first year of her kid's life, and then she like transformed into this beautiful butterfly, and it was great. But whatever, right? She's a 3 as well. That's terrifying.
Yeah,
because that's like the ultimate vulnerability, right? To be torn down to your bones and know nothing else That's what I've been avoiding my entire life. I don't want to do that. Oh, I don't even know what my question is. A, did that happen to you? And B, was it as horrible as a 3 as I feel like it might be, but also beautiful because you're a parent now and all the things, right? But like, I don't know, do you have any words of advice around that?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel there's an interesting thing, and I don't know how much of it is, it has to be 3-ness, but I think because when I was almost turning 30 when I was pregnant for the first time, and then I miscarried that baby at 30, and then pregnant, lost that baby again. So I had just turned 31 when I had Olivia. And so she was, like I said, very wanted. Like I knew, I'm signing up for this, eyes wide open, and I want this. And I think she was about, I always tell people, get through the first 3 days, then the next 3 weeks, then by 3 months, you're home sailing. Yeah. I think there's some truth in that with just the baby stage and phase. But I do remember it was in that first week that I had her, and I was I remember vividly on my bathroom floor, I nursed her and I put her to bed, and I just had this like sheer panic overtook me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am trapped. My life will never be my own. When will I ever sleep again? And that stayed for a bit. And it was like, I desperately loved her. And then this reality of like, my life is actually over. Yeah. Felt really real. And then there is this like slow transformation of you just learn like, my life is about many things now. And this is not my whole identity. But it's just this dance that I think you kind of learn all through motherhood, to be honest. And I definitely had phases where, for me, it was like more the feeling like, oh my gosh, now my life is actually over. Like, I could remember like even sending them to kindergarten. And then I'm like, oh gosh, ouch. Now my life, like you get used to that next phase, and then they start driving. And then you're like, oh no, now my life is really over, because I will always wonder, they're out of my control. I don't know where they are. And then they leave for college, and you're like, oh gosh, my kid raising years are over. And I think there is just this whole process for a 3, because our value is so tied to like what we do. Right. And so there is such a certain pride in like being a good mom and raising my kids. And that brings so much identity, and but it is a slow doing and then undoing, I think, of your identity. And then how you learn to just, again, it's just more open-handed release. I think still finding things that you're about that don't just revolve around your kids is so important. Having those other outlets, because a 3, I think, could, if you just go all in, like, this is what I'm going to just only be about, like it's a dangerous road. It's natural. And then I think if you don't take the like full corporate route, which I didn't, then you're doing this dance of like, well, what am I the best at? Like, because a lot of 3s are defined by their success in the world. And so, it's like, it can be anything. And so just being careful where you put all that value, right? Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've always said, this is going to be like a social media thing, but there's a whole like mom movement on social media, right? Of like, who's the best mom and who gives their kids the best food and all the like, it's this. And I've always felt like there's a lot of 3 moms on there, because it's I imagine as a mother, totally. If we are what we do and what we're doing right now is mothering, then of course you're going to want to be the best mother.
Correct. Right? Yes.
That's really interesting.
And 3s definitely want to show and tell it all. Like, for sure.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Actually, that's interesting. Okay, Olivia, I'll throw it back to you. Do you, sorry, we're going off script here a little bit. I'll get us back on script in a minute. Good. Did you experience your mother show and telling you as a kid? Like, do you remember any of that? Yeah. What was that like? To get into like maybe the not so fun part.
I was in everything. Goodness gracious, like everything I could be in to be the best for her, to be the best, I was in. Yeah, dance, soccer, swim, piano lessons, volleyball, like all the things. And it was never like spoken of like, okay, now go be the best so I look the best.
Yeah, for mom, yeah.
But now having the language around it and knowing she's a 3, I'm like, okay, I see what this was. And lucky for her, I was really good at it. And
So
I
it
mean, I made
worked,
her
is
look
what I
really good. It kind of worked. It kind of worked for, I don't know. There was 1 out of 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, she definitely wanted me in all the things, and I think cared about how we dressed. But then she like did such a great job of also giving us the freedom to choose. Like I wasn't forced to do any of the things I didn't want to do. Like she offered all of these things as like, you could do any of these and be awesome at them. And then I got to pick, what did I want to do? What did I want to go be awesome at? What did I want to work hard at? And she was that cheerleader and that encourager of like, you can do whatever you put your mind to, and you can be the best, and you can work hard and, make something awesome out of whatever you do. So she had that like huge encouraging cheerleader heart behind all of it too. But yes, also the dark side of maybe show and tell to the world. Up here's my kid.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm thinking like, I imagine healthy growth for a 3-parent is letting you choose.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But do you think it's possible? And this is a big question, of course, maybe there's like some people out there that would say yes or no or whatever, but do you think it's possible to be the child of a 3 and not at least be pushed to be the best at whatever you want to be the best at, right? But like, is it possible to be the child of a 3 and feel like your parent is okay with you being mediocre?
I think it would be hard.
Yeah,
it would be
me
hard.
too.
And I think it is a little bit of a bummer, because I think my sister tried so hard at so many things, and just there were some that stuck for sure, but there were a lot of things for her that didn't stick, and that she had to work very hard to be good at, versus me, where being good at a lot of things came very naturally. Like school was very natural for me. Volleyball came easy. Like things came easier to me, and so that took a lot of the pressure off, and like also a lot of the pressure was actually coming from myself anyways. Like it wasn't coming from her.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, but I think it would be hard to not feel that.
Jen, what do you think about that? You're like,
no, I agree. And I think I have to say both of my girls are really good at the things that they do and have made me so proud. Noelle, my younger one, she beats to such a different drum, but I have and I would, speak on stages and say to people, like, as you're raising your kids, like learn to like love what they love, be what they're about, and not just force your own agenda. And I just think, she has, taken a little bit of a different road and made some different choices. I mean, not like major, not diverting from like what I would say, like our major, like life worldview, but like Noelle has like piercings and tattoos, and like, I'm not inked. I have minimal piercings.
Yeah.
And like, she'll be like, okay, look what I did. And I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that. Like, finally embrace and love what,
Right.
But like, but whatever you do, don't be mediocre.
Yeah.
And so I do think that is a message. And like, and Noelle she's such a smarty pants when it comes to biology. And like, they both of the girls have like, come into their own way of being that has made me very proud.
Right.
And so I think it would be hard for any kid. And I think both of them do own confidence in who they are and what they're about. And I believe like hopefully a lot of that is probably instilled, because as 3s, we are really, really good. We're good cheerleaders. Yes. And especially I have a pretty strong 2-wing. I wing way more than 4. So I do feel like that transpires. So it'd be interesting, like, it's like, gosh, like if I were raising a 5 or a 4, I think 4 would be, I think it's like how to navigate and like let them be the fullness of who they are. If in our eyes as 3s, that appears to be mediocre.
It's not very full.
It's the appearance of that, right?
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm taking notes. So, Jen, I'm going to ask you this now. We talked a lot about some patterns of parenting as a 3 that kind of came up organically. When you think back on your parenting journey, maybe with Olivia specifically, but maybe both of your girls, are there any other examples of threeness coming up in you, or like stories that you have of how your threeness really came up in ways? We talked about the comparison, and we talked about like wanting your kids to be really good at things, right? Because it's like a representation of you. But are there any other really big patterns that we haven't mentioned yet? Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know if you've heard, Lisa Vischer has used the expression for a 3 that we have she used the term lust for efficiency. I don't know if you've heard that before.
No, but
and I'm like, when I heard her say that, I was like, that's what it is. Like,
get out of my face. Yeah.
That whole firing on all cylinders
Yes.
thing. And if you think about kids, if you think about children and raising,
yes,
it's like so many things get in the way and slow you down. And it's like whatever that thing is. And so like sick days would drive me crazy. Snow days, I hated them because they were stopping. Most people celebrate a snow day. Like, we're going to make cookies. And I'm like, no, because now I can't go to my workout.
Yes, I had plans.
Class. Like they were just hard for me.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. And so, yeah, that whole piece of like the stuff that like to take a beat and just slow down and to be in the process with your kids and kind of let them be. It was always a little tricky tension when like one of them would say like, I feel too sick to go to my swim workout. And I'd be like, go. Like my knee jerk was not compassion or let's take a rest. Maybe you need a break. And so even this rise of like the whole mental health and anxiety and like being able to like sit in that and meet your kid in that if they are just needing a slower pace of I just need a break. And so knowing when to push and then knowing when to say, okay, great. Like, let's take a beat. My younger one has actually been able to say, there were a lot of times, Mom, I did need you to say, nope, put on your swimsuit and we're going.
Yeah.
And then when are the times of like, we need to slow down. So perfect example of when this came to play that I kind of make fun of myself of this is probably the threeness of the 3. So here in Colorado Springs, we had a major wildfires can be really a deal here in the summers. And we had a wildfire that had made its way to the edge of our city. And we had been at the pool that afternoon just for like a fun afternoon swimming. The girls were in elementary school.
Okay.
And we could see the fire on the mountain. And there was all this like, are we going to have to evacuate? Are we not going to have to evacuate? We were kind of like waiting for our orders of what was going to happen. Right. And evacuation had not yet been called. Okay.
No, it was an optional. It was an optional evacuation.
Mandatory
but it was going to be mandatory soon. It was going to be mandatory soon, but it was only in the optional phase.
Okay, got it.
So continue. Sorry, go ahead.
Got it.
So I had signed up and paid for the girls to go to stroke clinic to practice their swimming, right? Mm-hmm. So we go home. We I said, we'd been playing at the pool all day, but now we're going to put on our competitive suits and go back and we're going to go to your stroke clinic. Mm-hmm. And I pull in and people are just like beelining out of the pool. And I pull in to I think I'm dropping them off for stroke clinic. And the lifeguard comes out and she's like, our town is burning down. Everyone's leaving the neighborhood. Like stroke clinic is canceled. And I was just like,
but that was the plan.
And they're gonna go get better at swimming.
We need to practice our swimming.
Yeah, hello. How are my kids going to be the best they could be if we cancel stroke clinic?
Thank you. So
that's funny.
That one. And then this is just a funny little story about raising a 1 and what this looked like. So I do like to be, I like to get stuff done, but then I also love to be the fun mom and we celebrate and do a lot of fun things. And being a child of the 80s, I felt like it was my personal responsibility to get to show my girls all the best rom-coms and the movies of the 80s, forgetting that a lot of them were maybe a little inappropriate for ages. So Liv was 16 and about to be 17. I do want to confirm she was about to be 17. And I just was like, girl, you must see Pretty Woman. Like it is one of the best, most adorable, romantic. I love this movie. We're watching Pretty Woman. It's rated R. I did not tell her it was rated R. We watched the whole movie. She's enjoyed the whole movie. I think we're having this great time. And then we get done and the credits start rolling and it says that it was rated R. And she was so mad at me. She's like, I cannot believe you showed me a rated R movie. That is, Mom, that is so inappropriate. And this whole, her moral compass, that was just like the craziest thing that I would have showed her a rated R movie when she wasn't yet 17.
Listen, can I tell you, I was a freak about that too. I like did not want to watch any R-rated. I don't know what it was. I also did not want to watch any R-rated movies. Was that your first one that you'd seen?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It must have been. Yeah. Unless she secretly showed me other ones. But
yeah, right. And you didn't even know.
Like so corrupted her, in my just.
That's funny.
Yes, I've always been the person who's like, when the thing is off limits, it's off limits, and then once it's fine, it's fine. Like once I was 17, I would have happily watched it with her. Like it was the same with drinking. Like never interested at all, couldn't care less. Like even at home or like holidays or whatever, if they're like, do you want to try a sip of this? Absolutely not.
No.
But then once I was 21, I'm like, sure, like I'm happy to try whatever. Like I'll like have a sip of whatever, have a glass of wine. And it was just, for me, it's once it's off limits, it's off limits, and then it's
this
after.
rule exists for a reason. Hello? Yeah.
Katie, I don't know if you're like this, but I do feel like I'm like, if rules make sense, I will follow them. But if I need to cut a corner, like I am all about cutting corners things to be the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's that tension again, and how we can know for sure the difference between a 3 and a 1.
Yes.
Is that Olivia's like not going to cut any corners, where a 3 is like, this is good enough. In fact, this might even be better if we do it this way.
Yeah.
So
we usually want the same result, but just different methods.
I agree. I had a woman in one of my classes the other, it started like 2 months ago, and she came in and she goes, I don't know if I'm a 1 or a 3. I'm stuck between the two. And those were the two questions I asked her. I said, will you cut a corner? And then I asked her, do the ends justify the means? Like, do you think that the ends justify the means? And I think a 3 would say yes, as long as you do what you want to do, don't care about how you get there. With some, I mean, I like to think I'm like a moral person, like, you know, with some stipulations, of course. But Olivia, like when I said that, you shook your head, right? Like, absolutely not. It absolutely matters. Yeah.
If you're not going to do it the right way, just don't even do it.
Then don't even, But I just want it to be done. That's So a question I had when your mom was talking about the efficiency. I'm wondering, well, first of all, Olivia, do you identify as a verbal processor? Like, would you say you're a verbal processor?
That's a good question. I definitely can verbal process.
Okay.
I don't think I feel like I can go either way. Depends on the situation, probably.
Was that ever hard with the efficiency thing of your mom? Like, did you ever feel like she was just like, I can't listen to all of it? Because I know I feel like that sometimes.
She's a very good listener, and she's a verbal processor, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So, like, we would just hash it out together. Like, we would talk it through. She was great at kind of like talking through all the different things with me. I mean, maybe if we were in a rush to get to something, maybe then that would come up of like, okay, we can't talk about this right now. But I feel like you were always a very present like listener and wanted to talk through all the things. You're also so nosy. So like you wanted to hear all the things. Like
I did.
You were like, tell me all the details of anything like you want to talk about. So
I feel like that piece for me, like to be that connected to my girls, like connection is key. Yeah. And so like for me, it's like the more questions I can ask, the more they will share with me, the more connected. And to me, then that's winning at being a mom and being a great mom and loving my kids well. Yeah. So now I can tell you like 10 o'clock at night talk time would bug. Like I would just be like, no, I'm done. Like that. And usually that's when they really wanted to talk, when that would come up. And so I would have to like dig really deep for extra measure of like grace and just keep telling myself like, this is the whole point. Like, this is what life is about. Like I would have to like psych myself up for like, no, you are living the dream. This is the end goal. This is what you want is for your kids to confide and share with you. So a lot of self-coaching in that, in those moments when you felt maxed.
Yeah. A lot of like multitasking too. Like it would be like sitting at the kitchen counter when you're like cooking dinner or on our like drives to school, like all of those. So I guess you're also a really good multitasker and, do other stuff while we're chatting.
Accomplishing and connecting.
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
So the other question I had about efficiency is now I do want to bring up your husband, the 9. Because I imagine that is a place where he balanced you out. The need when you were, I always tell Jace, I think you will be a much better toddler parent than I will be. I think toddler phase is going to be really hard for me for all the reasons you just mentioned. And I think Jace is going to be a great toddler dad because he just has all the tools to deal with it, right? And so can you I don't know, just in general, can you talk about that a little bit, like how you felt like your husband balanced you out? And then Olivia, I'm going to bounce it to you and say, like, if you have any thoughts about, you know, the dynamic between your mom and dad or whatever. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Totally. Yeah, I feel like, especially when it came to like decision making for like if we were ever like planning a family vacation or doing things, like I was always the initiator and I also was like the pull the trigger on the plan. Most ideas came from me of like, let's go do this fun thing or let's have this. And then John he is such a great, like if you know strength finders, he's deliberative. So I'm activator, he's deliberative. And so and I call it debilitating, but it's not debilitating. But it is like, he will research, he will figure out what is the best option. But then he's like, I don't want to make the final decision. And I honestly, he can't even like pull the trigger on like, book the trip, plan the thing. So I would have to go out and buy the tickets. So we just are a really great pair where he would be like, well, wait, slow down. Let's look at one other option. And a lot of times that's good. He found something better rather than me just being like, I don't know, let's just do it. So I think there's a really good kind of like that gas and brakes. Yeah. It can be annoying, but also it's a really good balancing thing. So I feel like that is one place where we've been really good. And then like I said, I just think he in general is just a more patient person. He's just gentle and kind. I mean, you know, nines, they see all sides of all the things. So a lot of times, like, you know, when Noelle and I would be sideways, he would come to me and he would be like, but I can really see where she's coming from. And like, he could really try to like advocate for her. And like, I feel like he just was a really good, I mean, peacemaker and mediator in our family and just brought that really gentle, he's a big guy. So we always call him the gentle giant. He just brought a gentle energy. And then also, and this is kind of just like a word for you as a 3, when the girls were younger, I had a home-based business. And so I was, you know, cutting paper and having people over to my house, making crafts, doing all the things. And I had a lot of mom guilt that I wasn't then like also checking the girls in at night and doing all the things. And I look back on that season and I feel like it was a place where I felt like I had to sometimes underfunction as a mom, but then it gave him space to come in and like meet the needs. And it honestly put the girls to bed and read them stories. And I think some of those sweet memories of like him picking up the slack, because I intentionally was in a space where I couldn't do it all. And honestly, it was probably one of the best gifts in our marriage and to our girls that gave him room to show up, because without that, I just would have overfunctioned and done all of it, you know? So there was a time when my younger one was at camp and we always joke she's allergic to camp, and we got a call like Monday night. We had just dropped them both off at camp. We got a phone call that she was like not feeling great. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, oh. And this camp was like 45 minutes away. John says, I'm going to go. The dad rescues the princess. That's what we do. And like, I just was like, great. And I just like let him, because it would be so easy to just be like, well, now I got to do that too. And like get after it. And so finding those places and spaces to like give him room to show up and like be the hero and be the one, like, but it definitely needs to be invited. And also to like, let him know, like, actually you have what it takes. And you maybe have even what I don't have right now to offer, because I think a 9 can often feel like, where is there room for me to, you know, like your presence matters, right? You have to invite that for a 9 to let them know, like, no, your presence actually is very needed and matters here.
Yeah. 9s often need the stage set for them, but then they do wonderfully once they're there. I agree with you.
Totally.
Olivia, do you have any thoughts on any of what your mom just said?
I don't know if I have too much more to add on that. Yeah.
Or just how you experienced your dad compared to your mom.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like she said a little bit, it feels like he could have definitely faded more into the background if there weren't those spaces for him to be able to show up. And so it was like those times when she would be out of town at like a conference or a workshop or whatever, then it was dad home with us, like taking care of us and hanging out and like could really show up and like be the fun dad and take us out to dinner and take us on the trip to Home Depot and buy us a fish tank when mom was out of town and, you know, all those funny things. And so I think, but it could have been like my mom really, when she was around, like she definitely has just that stronger personality. And I don't know, like the thought like default parent, I know that's like a phrase nowadays, but like she was definitely that default parent in any times that she was around. So having those spaces with my dad then was the only one to be around were definitely helpful in having him be available. And yeah.
So I feel like we talked about 3 a lot, which is probably my fault. But I want to go back to kind of focusing on 1 and the interaction between 3 and 1. If you could both, we probably mentioned it a little bit, but if you could, like in a few bullet points, say what do you think the easiest thing for you two to connect is on, and what do you think the hardest thing for you to connect is on?
I'm gonna let you go, Liv.
Oh, okay. I think one of the things that's great in a 3-1 relationship is we both just want to do great. Like we want to do great things, and we want to do it together, and we want to just like we can just like partner so well together to bring things about. I think she has like that energy to like dream and go be a go-getter, and then I have the kind of ability to support and back and like encourage and make it happen. And I think that's very common between like an assertive type and a reactive type together. So that 3 and that 1 partnership, I've seen that in a lot of my 3-1 relationships. And then I think that's something that probably is challenging in a lot of 3-1 relationships is neither of us are like the strongest feelers. So like talking about emotions and like deep diving into emotions is probably just neither of our strong suits of like really wanting to go there. So we can, if we like, we're gonna do it, but like we probably wouldn't like choose that as like our primary way to talk. Like we're much more just like stay focused, you know, get it done, than we are like let's get in the weeds of the feelings. So
that's okay. So
really
Jen, that's really good. Before you go, or before Jen goes, you know, Olivia, you said, you know, we're not always connecting on feeling, or we're not always doing our feelings, right? But you guys said you just have this great connection. And because I have a 2 for a mother, I heard that as talking about feelings, right? Because that's what my connection with my mother is. So I guess just to confirm, like, you know, Jen, you said like, I really want to connect with my kids and be the best mom and do all the stuff. I'm sure feelings did come up somewhat in that, but were there other things you were connecting on? Like, was it the getting stuff done that you were connecting on, or?
Oh, no, like totally. I feel like it was like, and this is what's so funny, because it's like, I know that I'm technically feelings repressed, and I feel like I think my feelings more than I feel my feelings. Like I do feel like I'm able to name and like experience them to a degree, and I like to pride myself with being in touch with my feelings.
Yeah,
but then I'm
too.
like, am I, or am I just deceiving myself? Because I think I am. Like, but I realize I don't do a great job like sitting in hard feelings without trying to like cheer them on or cheer them up or move them past it, you know? So I think that piece of like, I've tried to get better. And like, so I also had a 2 mom. And one of the messages that we got growing up was turn off your tears. Like she would literally say those words to us, especially if we're going into a public place, turn off your tears, turn off your tears. And so I really made a point to ask my kids when they would cry, tell me about your tears. Like, I'd want to try to stop. And sometimes I think, especially Liv as a 1, she's just like, my tears are speaking for themselves. Like,
hello.
Like there's not more to say about them, but I wanted so hard to like, to engage. Like if you could put words around that, and it's like, I would want them to tell me, but then I would quickly want to help them not be sad. Like, let's move past that. So, but I definitely felt this, like, I want to stop and name that, because that had been like something that I didn't experience growing up. And I really wanted to try to do it different and do it better.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Thank you. So now, Jen, now you can go. What would you say? the 3 and the 1 relationship. I don't know if you would just echo what Olivia said or if you had anything to add.
Yeah, no, I think especially from a 3 and a 1 as a 3 mom, 1 kid, it was like she was so easy to discipline because there was just like nothing really to discipline. So it just made my job easy. And then it also made me feel like I'm just really good at this. I was because she just like
this awesome kid.
it's so good. I was like, well, no, she's just a really great kid. But like she said, I would throw something out, like, let's jump. And she'd be like, okay, how high? And like, there is definitely that assertive reactive posture I think that's a synergistic combination for sure. And then I think for me, we already touched on it, but just that then when judgment rises up and like, if I can feel her judgment, and she's even said like, I don't have a poker face, like her face gives it away. Yeah. She's like, disagreeing or not loving what it is that I'm doing or supporting it. I know it and I feel that judgment. Yes. And that can be challenging. That can be challenging for a 3.
I try to hide it sometimes, but it's very hard. And I do apologize for it.
You do.
Because I don't want that to be my like heart and my posture towards her. And most of the time, like, well, we talked the other day just about like the idea of like, I can have my way of doing things that I believe is the right way of doing them for me. But that doesn't actually mean there's only one way to do something. And that's impressive, the growth for a one. That is the growth for the one. I was about to say impressive. Yes, is to be able to look at my mom and how she's doing something, whether it's like something so silly as where she keeps her silverware, and say that is wrong for me. Yeah. But that's okay.
Maybe not wrong for her. Yeah.
But that's okay.
In my world, that's crazy and wrong. But you just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you my little wrap-up questions now. So at the end of my one-on-ones, Olivia, you know this, I always ask you, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago, right? So we're going to do it a little differently. Jen, I'm going to have you go first. I'm going to ask you first. Kind of a two-parter. So not just 10 years ago, we're going to time travel back to when you had Olivia and you were holding her for the first time. I assume it was in a hospital or whatever, wherever you were. You're holding this little baby for the first time. It's your first baby, like you said, super, super wanted. 2 things. What would you tell yourself at that point in time? And what would you tell that little baby if she could, hear you and understand you, right? If you could give them both a piece of advice, what would you say?
Well, I would tell myself, and I feel like I felt this deeply when I was in the hospital with her, just what a treasured gift this one is. And, and I would try to whisper like so deeply to her, like, just, don't be so hard on yourself. And like, it's okay to make mistakes. And I think that's hard because I think deep down, I also carry something of like, it's not okay to make mistakes, even though, and it's just like, I would whisper to like me as that mom, but also to her, like actually, and like mistakes can like propel some really great things. And also like, you're human and it's okay to be human. And I think sometimes I hold myself to a certain standard and then my kids to that standard that I just wish can we just let everybody off the hook for a minute? And it's really okay. And like your mistakes are welcomed and like, please just don't be so hard on yourself. So that's what I think I would say.
That's great. That's beautiful. And then Olivia, now I'm going to make you talk about your mom. So we talked about your mom a lot as a 3 specifically, and you can think about her now in this question as a 3, but just more generally, just as your mother and the woman you know her as. Her morals, the things she's taught you, the way she is in the world. When you think about going forward in your own adult life, what is kind of the number one thing that you want to take from your mother and kind of apply it to your own life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's so many things that I want to emulate that you've been for me, like all growing up, and you've been a fantastic example of what it looks like to love people and love the Lord and follow him and all of the amazing things that I want to do as well. But I think one thing that really stands out is just how well you celebrate the small things and how intentional you are to like stop and like mark things as important. And just like call that out, because I think I can so easily just get in my rhythms and routines and move past things and not stop and really recognize like when something's great. And I think that is such a gift that you bring to all of the people around you, is just stopping and marking when things are awesome, and they are a lot.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I always wonder like how long it's going to take into both of those questions for the mom to cry, and it usually happens. Thank you both so much for being here. This was lovely, lovely, lovely.
So
I really appreciate you both being honest and vulnerable and all the things. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you so
having
much
us.
for having us.
Of course.
Hey friends, it's Jeff. We're getting to interview some of the most intriguing people in the Enneagram world. There are already 20 plus interviews up at aroundthecircle.org, and we're continuing to add more. That site is where we're gathering and platforming all of our best work. Much of it is available for free. Katie Whitlock and I have been doing deep studies working through wings, stance, fear, anger, and shame in our Rewired series. I'm beginning to release chapters from my next Enneagram book, which I'm calling The Steps, for early review for your consideration. And we have monthly online workshops in which 30 or so folks gather to talk about their type. There's audiobooks, there's videos, there's lots of fun stuff, lots to like. Go to aroundthecircle.org, and may all good things be yours.